Hello friends, it's Carla back with the 13 days of Halloween. Today is day 6 and we are sharing a spooky tag that I created with some fun Emerald Creek craft supplies, embossing powders. Here are 2 other tags, one I created from a live video on the Emerald Creek Facebook page and one for their blog. And I wanted to make a third one a little bit different that had similar techniques that I could show you for day 6. So here we've sprayed a manila tag with frayed burlap distress oxide. And frayed burlap has a quality where when you spray it and then you lay it down on your mat and pick it up, you can start to see the patinas that coming out in this oxide spray. So distress oxides react with water, and the frayed burlap especially, the colors that come out of it are oranges and greens and blues, and it looks rusty and patinaed and just looks amazing. So I love using this as a background base for my tags. I've then just started misting some water on, laying down a paper towel, picking that up, and dabbing it as well into the leftover ink. And you can see the tag on the right is one that I just dabbed up some extra ink. So I didn't want to waste it, and I'll use that tag at a later time. Now I'm taking a star stencil, which is from Tim Holtz, and I believe maybe it was from a Stamptember release a couple years ago. And I'm daubing through the stencil with an embossing dauber, and this one is from Ranger called Embossed. And the dauber just has embossing ink in it, similar to what you'd have in an embossing pad, but it's a little bit thicker and goes on a little thicker. We've got some really fun new powder here from Emerald Creek, and this was designed by Pam Bray. It is called Rock Candy Embossing Powder, and there's 5 new colors. This one is butterscotch, and as the stars there have heated and the embossing is warm, I'm just adding a little bit more. As you layer this rock candy, the big chunks will stick to it and it just looks beautiful. So here I'm not worrying about extra embossing getting over anything. I'm just really having fun with this. And then I grab some of the black soot distress oxide spray, and I'm putting that on the background, and those embossed stars will resist the spray. So if you wanted to keep a really dark look, you could use an ink spray. Because I'm using the oxide and it has the dye and pigment qualities to it, you're getting a softer, chalkier look. And especially when I put the water on that and let it dry, you're going to see a softer finish. I really, really love how this turned out. I think you could use it as well for some celestial backgrounds and really have fun with that, galaxies. Now we're taking a piece of the Tim Holtz metallic cardstock, and that's from the Metallic Confections pad, but he has a few different kinds. And we are inking up the Emerald Creek Hollow Dote stamp and taking some fine clear gloss embossing powder. So this is sticking really nicely to all those really great details on the stamp because it's such a fine embossing powder. And when we heat this and emboss it, we are getting a really cool etched looking image. So all we've done is stamped with Versamark, which is the sticky ink, and embossed with clear to get that really cool effect. And here I'm going ahead and using a Versamark ink pad, and I'm stamping the Emerald Creek Maple Leaf stamp. And I've got some different powders from Emerald Creek. This one is designed by Seth Apter. It's called Baked Velvet, and these are all a fine powder, and they go on really nicely, and are really great for detailed image. So we've got some fall colors, and as long as you're kind of shaking those off in between, you're not going to get your colors mixing. And I'm just layering my embossing powders in layers over that stamp, so I get different colors that are almost have a variegated look. Now I'm taking some Distress Oxide inks and I'm sponging those on, and Distress Oxides are really great for blending. So we've got some nice fall colors, and I could go back over these if I felt like I wanted a bit more of a certain color, and they layer very nicely. So after I get the fall colors on there, I'm adding a little bit of just plain water and dabbing it up, and you'll be able to see it adds a really nice splotched effect, and those inks react, and then I'm cutting those out. And you could definitely just leave them like that, but I decided to go around the edges with the ground espresso and then the aged mahogany to give them even more definition on the edge. So I think those look beautiful. Now I've got the aged mahogany again, and I'm using a stencil from Ridge Trading Company. They have some amazing stencils. They also carry beautiful chipboard and wood veneer, and everything is laser cut. I'm adding the powder bag to the front of that tag because I don't want my black embossing powder to stick to the Distress Oxide ink. It stays wet a little bit longer than regular ink. And now we're adding the black cherry embossing powder. This powder smells amazing. It actually smells like black cherry, and you can smell it while it's heating and even afterwards. They've got a bunch of aromas in their line, and they just smell really amazing. I'm adding a little bit of silver gel pen to the web and the spider, and a little bit of white gel pen to his eyes, and then just some foam tape to the back of the skull that is embossed on the metallic cardstock. And then just going ahead and picking out something that I can layer on the bottom. So I decide on this little sentiment here and use my small hole punch to punch a little hole on each end of that die cut. Those die cuts are just some that I had in my stash, and they came from close to my heart. So I've got some twine here, and I'm just tying that around the tag and tying it into a little bit of a bow. And then I'll just trim the ends off here. The twine is from DL Art. It's made by Diana Larson and sold in her Etsy shop. And I just add a little bit of glue to the back of these. They are stamped and cut out of Bristol cardstock, which is a little thicker, and it's more of a mixed media cardstock. So you can get some dimension just by simply bending the cardstock, and you can are still able to tuck that in behind the piece that you added the foam tape to. So you've got lots of dimension and texture just by adding those different layers. And now there's a couple more pieces. The craft cardstock looks really nice when you edge it with a light color of Distress Oxide. And now I'm using the Rock Candy embossing powder in Peppermint, which is a red. And I actually did a live video and made a similar tag that I'll show at the end, and used this red kind of on the fly, and I really liked it. It looked great to look like kind of some gooey, oozy blood, and I thought that was really, really a cool way to use it. I had only thought about using it for Christmas before. So I will show you a picture of the one that I did in the live video, as well as link the live in case you want to check that out on the Emerald Creek page. And you can see as long as you just add this into the warm embossing powder, it's going to stick and you're going to get more layers. I found that the red melted really nicely, and so it just really worked with this whole Halloween theme. And then I took some yarn from my stash. It's just some fun yarn that I got probably at Michael's or the dollar store, and added that to the top of the tag. And then I have some Wild Whisper sequins from their new Halloween Night collection, and these are manufactured by Spiegelmum Scraps, who has wonderful sequins in their store. And I will link below the Wild Whisper shop and the Spiegelmum Scraps shop as well, so you can find those. So there's a look at that fun tag. Here are the other 2 tags that I had made, and I can link where you can find those as well to get some close-ups. And here's a look at that really creepy oozy blood that I think turned out so wonderful for Halloween. So thanks so much for stopping by. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification so you don't miss any videos.